Open spaces, fresh air, and often a sighting of wildlife are all highlights of country living. Coupled with these highlights is also the benefit of living out of the eyesight of others, having a sense of isolation, and being separated from the hustle and bustle of the city. These are fantastic benefits of living in the country, in my opinion. Although living in the city has its pros, such as close proximity to numerous venues such as Walmart, schools, and churches, the cons far outweigh this benefit of easy accessibility for me. For these reasons, I will persuade you to believe that country living is far better than city living. First of all, the open spaces you will find when you venture out of the city limits bring immediate relief from the crowded city life. The hustle and bustle of city life is just too much for me to handle. The constant traffic, people everywhere, and constant buzz of activity drive me crazy. Instead, I prefer the quiet roads, wide open spaces, and absence of activity that living in the country brings. Most people who live in the country have no close neighbors. Though having neighbors within earshot can be an advantage, most people would prefer to have more privacy than a city fence can provide. Without neighbors close by, you are free to roam around a lot more than if your neighbors were right next door. In the country, children have as much space as they want and do not have to share it with tens of other children, like is the case in most city parks and playgrounds. In addition to this, homes on the countryside are surrounded by nature, which has a soothing effect on both the mind and the body. The city just doesn't have the beauty of the country. Now that I've told you why the open spaces available make the country life more appealing, I'd like to tell you about another advantage living in the country has over living in the city. In the country, fresh air is far more plentiful than in the pollution-filled city. Research done by Easy articles shows that if you have asthma or you are really sensitive to pollution, then the country lifestyle is best for you. Another benefit of the fresh air is the time you can enjoy outside. Most people who live in the country spend free time hunting, fishing, camping, or doing other outdoor activities. These things are readily available to people who live in the country, whereas people who live in the city may have to drive an hour or more to take part in these activities. Fresh air may be hard to come by in a big city, but in the country it's abundant and wonderful. Besides this plus, there's also ample solitude when you're living outside of the crowded city. Some people do enjoy the hustle and bustle of a busy city, but in my opinion, the solitude of the country is much more pleasant. Cities and towns are packed with people, and it is virtually impossible to step outside without being seen by or see other people. In the country, people have no problems with privacy or constant noise from the traffic. You do not have to see anyone if you do not want to, and often do not hear a car driving by for the entire day. According to countrylife.org, there seems to be an increased interest in the country life, especially among young families. This rising number of families living in the country is most likely because most families that live outside of the city spend a lot more time together. They are usually happier and closer to each other than other families. Another benefit to living in the country is the quiet. In the country, you are woken up by the singing of the birds rather than by the noise from the traffic. The country life is much more peaceful than the loud city life. In conclusion, I strongly encourage you to get out of the city and try the country life. Some people may have their reservations, but in my opinion, the pros far outweigh the cons. I hope the information I've given you today has persuaded you to look into the country life.